Welcome to the Deliberately Transformed Woman podcast, the podcast for women who want to get unstuck and get shit done. You're about to discover a whole new way of viewing yourself and the world. Hi, I'm Makaela Moore, intuitive leadership coach, former HR professional, mother to 1 human and 3 Boston Terriers, and a self-confessed nerd who loves brain science, acreage life, and adventures with our off-road caravan. I help women in business to uncover the root cause of their procrastination and imposter syndrome so they can go from hopeless procrastinator to confident, productive achiever. If you're the type of person who wants to let go of the things holding you back, then this podcast is for you. I'm so happy you're here. Hello and welcome to another episode. The end of this year has got me good, so I have made the decision to just do the podcast fortnightly until the new year. But I'll be back to weekly in January. I have a few things happening during December, and the one that I am most excited about is the release of the book that I've just co-written, which is called Letter to My 10-Year-Old Self. The official release is this Sunday, the 6th of December, but it is on pre-sale now. And I am as proud as punch to tell you that after it went up for pre-sale almost 2 weeks ago, it hit the #1 bestseller spot in 2 different categories on Amazon. To become an author has been a lifelong dream of mine, but to actually become published and become a best-selling author are actually beyond the dreams that my 10-year-old self had. In writing my chapter of this book, I realized a few things, and in learning them, it became quite a healing experience for me. I suppose a reparenting of sorts. I called my chapter Peeling Onions because every time I discover something new about myself by pulling from the archives of my subconscious, it feels like yet another layer of my onion has been peeled. I found all sorts of new layers of stuff to peel back in writing all of this worldly advice to my 10-year-old self. And in fact, I think I'm just going to read to you the first few paragraphs so that you understand what I'm talking about. It'll all make a bit more sense then. All right, here goes. So just imagine me telling this to my 10-year-old self. There is so much I want you to know to give you the best possible opportunities in life. I'm going to talk about life as if it were an onion, because onions have many layers that are all tightly held together. Each time you peel a layer of the onion, there is always another underneath waiting to be peeled, until you can get to the heart of it. Human beings are just like onions, with many, many emotional layers to peel back. Throughout your life, you will look back on this letter every now and then, and every time you do, you'll peel back another layer of your onion, discovering and identifying the story of your life. When we are born, we are like a blank book ready to be written. In our first 7 years of life, our sponge-like brains soak up every ounce of information available to us, but not always with the right meaning, and it all ends up as things we falsely believe and stories that we live our life by. This means that even if things are not true, we can convince ourselves that they are true and make decisions based upon them. Like the time Mum and Dad gave your dog Amber away when you were 4 years old. Even though you knew it was because Mum couldn't look after the dogs and all 3 kids while Dad was away at work, you felt like it was your punishment for not being good enough after your brother and sister were born. And so your brain has convinced you that you are not good enough or important enough. My darling girl, this is the biggest lie you will ever believe in your life, because you are in fact worthy of everything and loved despite everything. As adults, if we're lucky, we discover there is more to life than how we are living. We get to peel back those onion layers and find all those false beliefs and stories that we've carried since childhood. We can change who we are and create a new identity by recognizing those stories, and we can choose to think new and different thoughts, which creates a new way of being for ourselves. A bit like an actor playing a different person in a movie, we can be whoever we want to be. This is where the onion peeling happens, because with every layer that we peel back, we discover more old stories and things that we tell ourselves, which are often not true. When each layer is peeled and revealed, there is always another layer waiting to be peeled back. While peeling each of those layers is the first step. The second step is to get rid of that onion peel, throwing it away, never to be seen or felt again, which isn't as easy as it seems. I'll leave it there for now so that you've still got plenty to read when you buy the book, which is out now. One of the many layers that I've peeled recently has been the self-worth layer, which in all honesty is most of the layers that I've been peeling the last couple of years. And so many subconscious and limiting beliefs that I uncover, they stem back to self-worth. One of these has been imposter syndrome. I haven't always known it to have a name, but it has always been there, from not feeling like I belonged at any school or even in my own family growing up, to feeling like I somehow didn't even earn my university degree, even though I took 6.5 years to do it while working full time, and I passed all the subjects on my own, and I failed some, but all on my own. I did the whole damn degree, and yet somehow I felt like it wasn't real or authentic because I did it through a distance education university. So in my mind, I didn't go to uni, and therefore the imposter syndrome in me told me that it wasn't real. You know, it was kind of like, I've got a uni degree. Yeah, but you didn't go to uni. Anytime imposter syndrome rears its ugly head, there is always a yeah, but attached to it. When I was promoted to the senior human resources role that I held a few years back, I had worked in that same team for a few years already in a more junior role. I had gone for this senior position once before, and I'll openly admit that I wasn't ready for the senior role at the time when I went for it the first time. And rightly so, I didn't get it. But when I did go for it the second time, and I did win it a few years later, I naturally attached a yeah but to the outcome, which was that they gave me the job because they felt sorry for me. In hindsight, I can see that that wasn't the case and that I earned that position fair and square. But at the time, the yeah, but was very real. And then there was that crushing time that I was told, yeah, but you're too overweight. And all of the times that I was told, that would look beautiful on you. Yeah, but we don't make it in your size. Sorry. Whenever we get this yeah, but, it's usually not true. In fact, 99.9% of the time, it is false. Whether we say it to ourselves, which is a limiting belief, or someone else says it to us, we instantly believe it because our brain has been programmed since childhood to A, not think very highly of ourselves or our abilities, and B, to believe the things that others say about us. The big problem is that because this stuff is so ingrained into our subconscious, we don't know any different. We don't realize that there is even grass on the other side, let alone it being green. It's like being told your entire life that the sky is blue, and then one day finding out that it was actually pink all this time. We would have difficulty in believing it was pink. No matter how hard we tried to look for the pink, we'd still see blue because that is our truth. When we're programmed with a series of beliefs that add up to low self-worth, we simply never believe that we can be or do anything we want. And that if we do achieve something noteworthy, that there must have been some error. Like we did a Stephen Bradbury, or we were given some concessions. Like, yeah, you did this, but. And it's that bloody but that always takes the shine off the achievement. That but negates anything and everything that was said before it. It is only the words that come after the but that seem to resonate with us. It is only the words after the but that we allow to impact us and generally bring us down. So we develop patterns of expectations based on our beliefs and our past experiences of yeah, but. And when we're in that pattern of expecting things to always be a yeah, but, we just stop putting ourselves out there to avoid the pain and the rejection. I had a situation recently where this was really brought to my attention, and it made me stand up and realize just how much this has happened throughout my life. to the extent that it knocked the wind out of my sails momentarily and left me a little bit gobsmacked. I was proudly telling my dad that the book I had just co-authored had hit the #1 bestseller spot and that I was now officially a best-selling author. Looking back now to that moment last week, I can clearly see that it was my 10-year-old self standing in front of her daddy, telling him about this great achievement and desperately seeking his approval. And what do you think his response was? Naturally, I wanted it to be a big congratulations with all of the proud comments that should have followed that. But no. His response when I told him that his daughter had just fulfilled a lifelong dream and become a best-selling author was, "Yeah, but." He actually said, "Yeah, but you only wrote a chapter, not a whole book." Thanks a frickin' lot, Dad. Way to ruin a moment. Way to bring me back down to earth with a thud. Way to show me exactly how and why I grew up with one of the worst cases of imposter syndrome I've ever seen in anyone. It was in that moment that I could suddenly see everything so very clearly. My imposter syndrome was simply a lack of confidence. It was an ingrained belief that I was not good enough and that anything I would ever do was just not quite right. The old "yeah, but" struck again. In talking to my husband later about it and how I was processing it all, I said to him that I was actually grateful that Dad had said that. He looked at me a little bit shocked. He was puzzled and amused, all in the one expression, but as I explained to him, having Dad say that one off-the-cuff remark, "Yeah, but you only wrote one chapter, not a whole book," it was exactly what I needed to hear in order to unlock the vault that was keeping all the secrets behind my imposter syndrome. It allowed me to see and to realize exactly what patterns had been created for me as I grew up. Every single achievement throughout my childhood had been a "yeah, but" moment. And of course, after a while, you just stop trying to do things. After years of this, you simply believe, just like believing that the sky is blue, that you are not good enough to achieve things. The "yeah, but" diminishes any achievement in a nanosecond. It tells the person that their achievement is not valid or worthy. Now, after snapping back at my dad with something along the lines of, "Well, it's more than you've ever written," he did end up congratulating me, but I've got to say it was just too little too late, and his congratulations were all lost in the moment of the "yeah, but." Having said all of that though, it has given me a few more layers of the old onion to peel back this last week, and I'm actually really grateful for it. Because not only does it help me in overcoming my own imposter syndrome by understanding why it's there for me in the first place, it's also going to help me to understand and coach my clients on a deeper level. A level of a real inner knowing. Just like writing this book has done for me, this "yeah, but" is also helping me with my parenting. Writing to my 10-year-old self helped me to relate to and understand my 8-year-old daughter so much better, and I feel like a better mum for it all now, and ever so careful not to use the "yeah, but" when talking to my daughter. So next time you hear the "yeah, but," look at where it's coming from and how often you've heard that in your life, because it may just trigger something in you like it did for me. I have no idea why my dad does that. That is something that I haven't delved into, but I suspect it's a combination of his own upbringing along with a military career, that it's just his default to minimize others for his own safety or security. And of course, it is all subconscious, so until someone actually points these things out to people, they will unknowingly keep doing it forever. The other things to remember too is that when you're on the receiving end of this "yeah, but," it is never actually about you. It's always a reflection of some form of security or inadequacy, be it subconscious or otherwise, of the person actually delivering it. It's always about them, never about you. But unfortunately, as with any insult in life, we take them personally because we don't see them for what they are, which are reflections of the sender in one way or another. I've also realised lately that this yeah but extends beyond just diminishing of achievements and the like. It is also something we use ourselves to create an excuse, which is, as a former hopeless procrastinator, I can wholeheartedly say that excuses are life. So if you're like me and procrastination has been a problem for you, take a look at the language that you talk to yourself with each and every day. What language are you using? How many times are you saying yeah, but in your head to create an excuse or a reason or an out for not doing something? Our subconscious brains are so used to hearing this type of yeah, but that it almost goes looking for any situation that you can say yeah, but and make an excuse for. Because when we make an excuse for not doing something, regardless of whether it was because of something we haven't done or something that we're not going to do, anytime we make that excuse, we are letting ourselves off the hook. And it's usually something that we perceive to be hard. So our brain is now used to getting away with not having to do the hard things. So we end up in this spiral of seeing everything as hard, and suddenly we're in overwhelm where we can't see the wood for the trees. And so our brain goes into the protective mode of keeping us safe, and it helps us to create all of the yeah but excuses so that we again feel safe and comfortable, and that no tigers are going to eat us by doing any of the hard things that the confident, productive achievers are going to do every day without the yeah buts holding them back. Here's a handy little exercise that you can do. Simply notice any time you or someone else says yeah but. Listen to it with this new knowledge or perspective, and then start rewriting that language. Even just being able to see it will make the world of difference to you, because once things like this are called out and noticed, they tend to not have as much power over you, which I spoke a lot about back in episode 24 when I spoke about personal power. Nothing will change in our life if we don't first step into and own our personal power. And the first step in doing that is awareness. So start looking and listening for it, and you'll be surprised by how many people negate what has just been said with a yeah, but. And unfortunately, us Aussies are notorious at doing this because we've got that whole tall poppy syndrome going on, which that's another topic for another day. But needless to say, I would love to demolish that syndrome and let the poppies all grow tall and celebrate everybody's success. The tall poppy syndrome and yeah, but simply go hand in hand, and coupled with the high statistics of women with low self-esteem, which very basically can be attributed back to the ridiculous standards that we are told through social and other media that we should be upholding, it's no wonder that women are waking up each day already feeling behind the 8 ball before they're even starting their day. The other kind of yeah but that I've noticed is the blaming yeah but. When people are called out for something, often the instant response is yeah but, and then it's some form of blaming explanation following. Like, yeah, but he didn't do X, so I didn't do Y. And when we blame others, we are not standing in or owning our personal power. We are giving that power away to another person. And instead of taking responsibility for our part, we place blame on others, which also places the responsibility elsewhere. When we do stand in our power and we are 100% responsible for our own thoughts, feelings, actions, and reactions, then it puts us into a position of even more power because it removes any fuel from the situation. When you own a mistake, you'll often find that the situation very quickly diffuses. But when you find yourself in a yeah but situation, you are on the back foot. You're backpedaling, you're having to rethink situations, you're having to come up with different stories and excuses, and all of that is bloody exhausting. It takes way more energy to be the yeah but person when you're laying blame elsewhere than simply owning that shit for yourself and taking responsibility. God, there is so much more to say on this topic, but I won't today. Actually, I'm going to leave you with this thought to ponder. If you're the sort of person who is perhaps a little guilty of yeah-butting other people, then next time someone is telling you about their accomplishments or even about their dreams, don't start your reply with a yeah, but because you're simply diminishing the achievement and stomping on that dream like a bug. Oh, and if you're wondering how I could possibly be grateful for the yeah but insult from my dad, I want to read to you something. I finished off my letter to my 10-year-old self with the following quote. Just always, always look for the lessons and the benefits of every situation, because it all happens for you to grow and evolve. Then you can let them go and be free of them. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode and that you're taking away something from it. If you're one of the amazing people who has already purchased a copy of my book, then I send to you a very big thank you. Every one of you is helping to support this book and, of course, me and all of my co-authors in becoming that best-selling author. If you haven't purchased it yet, there is still time to pick up your digital copy. And if you're the type of person who loves a bargain, get in and get it at only 99 cents before the price does go up to $9.99 on the 12th of December. I'll pop the link in the show notes, or you can head on over to Amazon, Barnes & Noble or iBooks to get your very own copy. Thanks for listening. I'd love it if you would also jump on over to my Facebook group, Deliberately Transformed with Makaela Moore, and join the conversation with other book fans, where they're sharing their stories of what they wish they could tell their 10-year-old self. Take care, and I will catch you next time. Cheers. Thanks for listening. The fact that you're here means you find value in this podcast, and if you're finding value here, then your friends will too. So do them and me a favour, please, and share this podcast on your socials. If you'd like more inspiration and to connect, then head on over to my Facebook group, Deliberately Transformed with Makaela Moore. The link is in the show notes. You'll also want to hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Until next time, take care.